Hola clase. Esta tarde vamos a hablar de los mandatos formales. Tonight's topic is formal commands or usted or ustedes commands. Making usted or ustedes commands is not so different from making negative tu commands, which we studied last week. Here are some examples on this slide here. I'd like you to try to fill in the blanks as much as you can. Can you give me the ustedes command of hablar? Okay, on a separate sheet of paper or on your Word document or on the PowerPoint, which you might have open in another window. Please go ahead and do that. Remember that you need to bring these exercises to class, as always, in written form. So see if you can come up with the ustedes form of hablar based on what you see for the usted form. Okay, try the same thing with comer, but give me the usted form. And then finally, in the third instance here, can you give me both of the commands for vivir? Moving down the page, I've given you the usted command for levantarse. Can you give me the ustedes command? And then can you do something similar with prepararse? Can you come up with the usted and ustedes commands for that? And at the bottom of the page, you have the 5 irregular verbs in formal commands. So I've given you the usted form of ser. Can you give me the ustedes form? For saber, I've given you the ustedes form. Please fill in the usted form. For estar, I've given you the ustedes form. See if you can figure out the usted form. Dar, I've given you the usted form. And ir, I've given you the ustedes form. Fill in the usted form. Okay? Go ahead and pause and do that, and then we'll move on. Okay, so how do we make formal or usted or ustedes commands? It's really quite simple. Step one is we take the yo form of the verb. For example, the verb traer, it would be yo traigo. We take off the o, just like we did with negative tu commands, if you remember correctly. And then we add the opposite usted or ustedes ending. So for verbs that end in ar, that's going to be you're going to add an e or en, e or en. For verbs that end in er or ir, you're going to add an a or an. So traer ends in er. So if we take the yo form, it's traigo. If we take off the o, we we add. At that point, we're ready to add our ending. And since it ends in er, we're going to add a or an. So we're going to get traiga or traigan. Using these two images here, see if you can complete the sentences giving the commands for the verbs in parentheses. Use usted commands, please. Go ahead and write these on your sheet of paper, your Word document, or you can write them in on your PowerPoint if you have it open. This commands, the commands PowerPoint open in another window. Go ahead and pause and do that. Ojo. We have some verbs cuyas raíces se cambian. We have several verbs with stem changes, and we have to be careful about how we deal with those. But again, they follow the rule. That's the good news. So the verb volver, for example, is going to have a yo form of vuelvo, and the ustedes command is going to be vuelvan or vuelva, depending on whether it's plural or singular. So you can go ahead and fill that in. See if you can do the others. Try to remember your stem changes. The last 3 are E to I. I'll remind you of that. Go ahead and pause and fill in your answers on your sheet of paper, your Word document, or this PowerPoint. Okay, now we have some verbs whose endings may change. Well, of course, we're pretty familiar with gad, kad, sad and the way that those endings change. So I filled in gad for you. I'd like you to fill in the ending changes that you typically see with gad and sad when we add the opposite endings like an E or EN. So I'll let you do that. I've given you the changes that happen with here verbs like elegir and her verbs like recoger, okay, because the yo form has a J in it, recojo, elijo. I'd like you to fill in con the ending that we typically see for verbs that end with a vowel and then CER, like conocer. You all know conocer, so you can all give me, what the yo form is, so you can tell me what the ending should be. The same thing happens with verbs like producir. I'm sorry, there's a small misprint there. It should be producir, IR on the end. Any verb that ends in usir has a sco ending. Okay, so you're going to have to give me the changes that you typically see there. And then, of course, huir, construir. If you don't remember your form of construir, I'd like you to look that up. And then give me the ustedes mandato ending, or the formal command ending that you would typically see there. So go ahead and fill these in. You can pause again on your sheet of paper, write it on your sheet of paper, on your PowerPoint, or on your Word document. Okay, usando los mandatos, ven ustedes las formas afirmativas y negativas del, de los mandatos con usted. Okay, so I want you to make usted commands using the images you see and the verbs you see here. So, conducir con cuidado is the first one. Can you rewrite that sentence as an usted, instead of a statement, as an usted command? And then the second one, lanzar la bola muy lejos. Same thing, I'd like you to write it as a command rather than a statement. Give it a try. Okay, we have to be extraordinarily careful with reflexive verbs when we make our usted commands or ustedes commands. Okay, here I'm going to give you some I'm going to give you one example of an usted command, and I'd like you to try some with some reflexive verbs. So you'll notice that in blue I have the verb levantarse, the affirmative command levántese. Ahora, señor, we're talking to Mr., so we're going to address this person formally using usted. Notice that I've added the reflexive pronoun se on the end, as you saw on the first slide of the presentation, and we had to add an accent over the a. Remember, you can go 2 syllables back from your pronoun if your verb has more than 2 syllables. Okay. When we make the negative version, on the other hand, we're going to have to put that reflexive pronoun before the verb. So we're going to take it off the end and slide it to before, and we're going to get no se levante ahora. Okay. Try the rest of these here, the 4 verbs that I have in blue below. Notice that I put the reflexive pronoun in parentheses in the first 3. I didn't in the last one, but go ahead and see if you can make the affirmative and negative commands to chicos, chicas, Rogelio y Carlos, and señores in the 4 sentences below. Again, on your sheet of paper, on your Word document, or on PowerPoint to show me in class. Okay, I think we're going to stop there. Nos paramos aquí y nos vemos mañana con la tarea. Suerte con los mandatos.